Today, we're going to dive into what, at first glance, looks like a pretty simple story from the Bible, a servant on a mission. But, as we're about to see, it's actually this incredible masterclass in diplomacy, character, and even miracles. And the best part? All the clues are hidden right there in plain sight.
So that kind of begs the question, right? How do you even tackle a story that's 3,000 years old? It's not just about reading the words on the page. It's about learning how to read them. It's about knowing exactly where to look for those little hidden details that change everything. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Think of this as a textual investigation. We're going to follow the breadcrumbs left in the narrative to uncover a story that is so much deeper and, honestly, way more fascinating. So let's start with the mission itself. All right, first, let's just set the scene. The story is from Genesis chapter 24. You've got the patriarch Abraham, he's getting old, and he gives his most trusted servant, a guy named Eliezer, this incredibly important job. Go back to my homeland and find a wife for my son, Isaac. I mean, the stakes could not be higher for the future of his family. So, the basic plot is pretty straightforward. The servant travels for a long time. He comes up with this clever test at a well to find the right girl, and almost immediately this young woman, Rebekah, shows up. She passes the test with flying colors, and it really just seems like a simple story of mission accomplished, you know? Thanks to a little bit of faith. But that's just what's on the surface. To get to the real story, the one that's happening just beneath the surface, we need a guide. We need someone who is a total expert at reading between the lines. And our guide for this little investigation is an 11th century scholar named Rashi. So who was this Rashi guy? Well, think of him as our master decoder. He was this brilliant 11th century French scholar, and his whole genius was in noticing the little things that most people just read right past. You know, a slightly weird turn of phrase, a word that gets repeated, or a character acting in a way that just seems a little off. For Rashi, none of that was an accident. It was always a clue. So when you start looking at this story through Rashi's eyes, two key players really jump out, besides Rebekah herself. You have the servant, Eliezer, and her brother, Lavan. And wow, Rashi shows us a pretty stark contrast. Eliezer is the perfect model of loyalty and faith. Laban, on the other hand, well, he's impulsive. And as we're about to find out, he's motivated by something totally different. Okay, so we've got Rashi as our guide. The investigation is officially on. We are going to apply his decoder method to a few key moments in the story and just see what incredible truths he manages to uncover. Here we go. Clue number 1. After Rebekah gets home wearing all this expensive jewelry, the text says her brother Laban ran out to meet the man at the well. Now Rashi sees that word ran, and he hits pause. He asks a really simple question. Why is this guy running? Is he just being a super enthusiastic host? Not a chance. Rashi points to the order of events. The text is very clear. Laban runs after he sees the gold ring and the bracelets on his sister. So here's the kicker. His rush isn't about welcoming a guest. It's about checking out a rich stranger. He saw the gold and his mind went straight to money. So Rashi's method is great for uncovering character, but it also points to something a little more supernatural. Our next clue is hidden in just 3 little words that the servant says. When Eliezer is telling the family his story, he says, "And I came this day to the spring." Now that should sound really odd to you. This was a journey that should have taken weeks, maybe longer. To say you started and arrived on this day, I mean, that just doesn't make any logical sense. Unless something amazing happened. And this is where Rashi introduces this fantastic concept, kafitzat haderek. It literally means the shortening of the way. Rashi explains that the servant isn't misspeaking at all. He's actually hinting that a miracle took place, that God somehow compressed the journey, letting him get there on the very same day he left. It's just a brilliant example of how Rashi can turn one weird phrase into a sign of divine intervention. Okay, but now we get to what I think is the most brilliant piece of Rashi's analysis in this entire chapter. It's all about the way Eliezer, the servant, tells his own story. It is an absolute masterstroke of diplomacy. So the Torah spends a huge amount of text having Eliezer repeat his story to Rebekah's family, almost word for word. But Rashi, with his eagle eye, he notices it's not word for word. The servant makes one tiny but absolutely critical change to the timeline. So let's just be crystal clear about what really went down at the well. First, Eliezer is completely overwhelmed with gratitude that he found the right woman, so he gives Rebekah this expensive gold jewelry.
Only after he's already given her the gifts does he ask her, "Hey, whose starter are you?" But now, look at how he tells the story to her family. He flips the order. He claims that first he asked who she was, and then, once he knew she was from Abraham's family, that's when he put the jewelry on her. It's a deliberate change. The facts are the same, but the sequence he presents is totally different.
And that leads us to the million-dollar question: why? Why change the story? Why would this incredibly faithful servant, basically lie about what happened? What was he trying to do?
And here it is. This is Rashi's incredible insight. Eliezer knew exactly who he was dealing with, a shrewd and, as we already saw, potentially greedy family. If he told them he gave a strange girl incredibly valuable jewelry before he even knew her name, he'd look like a fool, impulsive, easily taken advantage of. So he changed the story just enough to present himself as a careful, methodical negotiator. It was a brilliant, calculated, diplomatic move. So we've decoded a character's motives, we've found a hidden miracle, and we've uncovered this amazing diplomatic strategy. But why does any of this matter? The answer is really the whole reason the Torah spends so much time on the words of a single servant.
The reason for all this detail is the lesson. This isn't just about moving a plot forward. It's teaching us that things like integrity, wisdom, and faith, they aren't just for the big, dramatic moments in life. They show up in the details, in how you choose to tell a story, how you conduct a negotiation, even how you treat your animals.
And Rashi just drives this point home by quoting an even earlier sage, Rabbi Akka. And this statement is just astonishing. It says that the ordinary, everyday, wise conversations of people like Eliezer are actually more pleasing to God than even the holy, sacred studies of later generations. Why? Because in these conversations, you see faith and wisdom in action. And so, this whole deep dive really leaves us with a question to think about. If a simple story about a servant can hold all these lessons on diplomacy, on character, on miracles, then what profound truths about who we are and what we really value might be hidden in our own everyday conversations? What story are we telling?